My sister was crying when she asked for my kidney. My mother wouldn't stop saying, "You're her only chance." My father stared at the floor like the decision was already made, and her husband stood behind them, calm, quiet, watching me. I almost said yes, until I saw the message on his phone. "If Daniel agrees, we don't touch the investment fund." That's when I realized something. This wasn't about saving her life. It was about protecting their money, and I was the cheaper option. "My name is Daniel Mercer. I'm 34, senior financial analyst, Chicago. Numbers have always made more sense to me than people. Numbers don't manipulate. They don't cry. They don't pretend. Growing up, I was the stable one. Good grades, no drama, predictable. My sister Emily was different, emotional, delicate. Always one crisis away from needing rescue. My parents built their lives around protecting her. They built expectations around me. If something went wrong, I handled it. If something broke, I fixed it. If something cost money, I paid it. When Emily married Ryan Caldwell, my parents treated it like a royal wedding. Ryan was polished, confident, strategic. He worked in private equity. Talked about capital the way most people talk about weather. He smiled often, but his eyes measured everything. Every room, every person, every weakness. Especially mine. 3 months ago, Emily called me at 2:17 a.m., crying, and for the first time in years, I wasn't sure what I was walking into. Her voice was shaking. "They found something in my kidneys." She didn't say cancer. She didn't say failure. She said something. Within 48 hours, the word became official. Advanced renal failure. Aggressive progression. Dialysis starting immediately. My mother called right after the appointment. "It's serious, Daniel." My father added, "The doctors say a transplant gives her the best chance." Best chance. Not only chance, best. We met at my parents' house that Sunday. Emily looked pale, smaller than I remembered. Ryan stood behind her, steady and calm. He spoke clearly. "We're starting compatibility tests with immediate family." Immediate family. That meant me. No one asked if I wanted to. They assumed. My mother reached for my hand. "You're her only sibling." Translation: "You're the solution." Emily looked at me like I was oxygen. For a moment, none of the childhood imbalance mattered. She was still my sister. So I nodded. "I'll get tested." My mother cried instantly. My father exhaled like a deal had just closed. Ryan stepped forward and shook my hand. "Thank you," he said. His grip was firm, too firm. Like we had just finalized something. 2 weeks later, the hospital confirmed it. I was a strong match. Strong, healthy, ideal candidate. The surgery timeline started forming before I had processed the result. Pre-op dates, consent forms, recovery projections. Ryan handled logistics with unsettling efficiency. Everything felt organized, prepared, pre-calculated. And that's when the first quiet doubt appeared. It didn't feel like desperation. It felt like execution. Once I was confirmed as a match, the urgency shifted. The panic disappeared. The plan accelerated. Ryan created a shared calendar. Surgery window locked. Recovery weeks outlined. Work leave discussed before I brought it up. It was seamless. Too seamless. One night I stopped by their house with updated paperwork. Emily was upstairs resting. My mother was in the kitchen. Ryan was in the office with the door slightly open. He didn't see me. He was on the phone. His voice was low, controlled. "If Daniel goes through with it, we won't need to liquidate." I froze. "Liquidate what?" He continued. "The fund stays intact. No early penalties." Penalties. This wasn't medical language. This was financial strategy. I stepped back before he noticed me. That night, I reviewed everything I knew about his firm. Locked capital positions, quarterly liquidity windows, heavy early withdrawal fees. Then I checked something else. Emily's insurance tier. Premium international transplant coverage. Private facilities abroad. Fast-track programs. Fully covered with minimal out-of-pocket cost. Minimal. The next day, I called the transplant coordinator. Is her condition immediate emergency status? There was a pause. It's serious, she said carefully. But dialysis is stabilizing her. Stabilizing, not dying. At dinner that weekend, I tested the waters. How long can she safely wait? Ryan answered before anyone else. The sooner the better. Not a timeline, not a number, a slogan. That's when the pieces started aligning. Liquidity window in 4 months. High penalty for early withdrawal. Premium insurance already in place. And me. A perfect biological match. Free. Clean. Immediate. I wasn't being asked because I was the only hope. I was being asked because I was the most efficient option. The surgery was scheduled for 6 weeks later. That gave me time. Time to observe. Time to verify. Time to understand exactly what role I was playing. Emily stopped calling me directly. Communication started coming through Ryan. Dates, pre-op appointments, diet adjustments, legal waivers. He handled everything. Emily just cried when we spoke. Too much crying, not enough specifics. One afternoon, I offered to drive her to dialysis. Ryan hesitated, just for a second. Then he agreed. During the drive, I asked simple questions. What did the doctor say about alternatives? She looked confused. What alternatives? Private transplant programs, international lists. Her fingers tightened around her purse. Ryan said those are unrealistic. Unrealistic. Interesting word for someone with premium insurance. When we got to the clinic, I told her I needed to use the restroom. Instead, I went to the administrative desk. I asked to confirm insurance details for a donor procedure. The nurse pulled up the file. Then she frowned. Your sister has top-tier international transplant coverage, she said. My pulse slowed. Full coverage? Yes. With minimal out-of-pocket cost. Minimal, not impossible. Not financially devastating. Minimal. On the drive back, I said nothing. That night I went deeper. I accessed public court records. No debt, no lawsuits. Strong liquidity profile for Ryan's firm. Then I found something buried in a business newsletter. Ryan's fund had a liquidity event scheduled. 4 months from now. Major payout window. Early withdrawal penalties, 30%. If assets were touched before maturity, they'd lose hundreds of thousands. Suddenly, the timeline made perfect sense. If I donated now, they avoided penalties. If they waited for private options, they paid fees. I wasn't a miracle. I was a cost-saving strategy. But I still needed something undeniable, something concrete. 3 nights later, I went to their house again. Ryan was in the shower. Emily was asleep upstairs. His phone was on the kitchen counter. Face up. Unlocked. A message notification appeared. From someone named Mark. Investors are asking about the liquidity schedule. Another message followed. If your brother backs out, we'll have to reallocate. My hands felt steady. Too steady. I opened the thread. There it was. If Daniel agrees, we preserve the capital position. And Emily still gets treatment. Win-win. Win-win. I took photos, every message, every timestamp, every detail. Then I put the phone back exactly where it was. When Ryan came downstairs, towel around his neck, he smiled at me. Everything okay? I smiled back. Everything's perfect. And for the first time since this started, I wasn't confused anymore. I wasn't suspicious. I wasn't uncertain. I knew exactly what I was. An alternative expense. I didn't confront them immediately. I waited 3 days. 3 very calm days. I attended pre-op consultations. I signed additional paperwork. I let my mother talk about second chances. I let my father discuss recovery timelines. I watched Ryan closely. He was relaxed, too relaxed. On Sunday night, I asked everyone to come over to my apartment. I said I wanted to talk before final consent was submitted. They arrived together. Emily looked nervous. My mother looked emotional. My father looked defensive. Ryan looked confident. We sat at my dining table. No small talk. No coffee. I placed my phone face down in front of me. "I have a question," I said. Ryan nodded. "Of course. Why didn't you tell me about the international coverage?" Silence. Emily blinked. "What coverage?" she asked. I didn't look at her. I looked at him. Ryan leaned back in his chair. "That wasn't viable." "That's not what the hospital said." My mother frowned. "What are you talking about?" I turned the phone around. I opened the photos. I slid the phone across the table. Ryan's face didn't change immediately, but his jaw tightened. My father leaned forward to read. Emily stared at the screen. Her breathing changed. "You went through my phone?" Ryan asked quietly. "You plan to use my kidney to avoid touching your investment fund," I replied. "That's not what this is," he said. "Then explain preserve capital position." Emily started shaking her head. "Ryan?" He exhaled slowly. "We were trying to be practical." Practical. My mother looked between us. "You were going to let him go through major surgery to save money?" I asked. "It wasn't about saving money," Ryan snapped. "It was about efficiency." Efficiency. My father stood up. "This is getting out of control." "No," I said calmly. "What was out of control was pretending this was my only option." Emily began crying. "You were going to help me anyway," she said. "That's not the point." "It is the point," Ryan cut in. "You're a match. You're healthy. You recover. She lives. And we protect what we built." There it was. Not survival. Protection. Of assets. Of returns. Of portfolios. I stood up. "I'm not donating," my mother gasped. "You can't do that." "I can." "You're condemning your sister," my father said. "No," I replied. "I'm refusing to be used." Ryan's composure cracked. "This is ego," he said. "No," I said. "This is boundaries." Emily looked at me like I had betrayed her. "You said yes," she whispered. "I said yes when I thought I was your last chance." The room went silent. "You were never out of options," I continued. "You just didn't want to pay for them." Ryan stood up. "You're blowing this out of proportion." I looked at him. "Am I?" And for the first time, he didn't answer. After that night, my phone didn't stop ringing. My mother called first, then my father, then Emily, then relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. The narrative spread fast. Daniel is refusing to save his sister. Daniel changed his mind. Daniel let pride get in the way. Ryan stayed silent publicly. Smart move. He let the family pressure do the work. 3 days later, my aunt posted a vague message online. "Some people only care about money." The irony was almost funny. I didn't respond to any of it. Instead, I waited. Because I knew something they didn't. Ryan's fund had a quarterly investor call scheduled. Liquidity discussions were coming. 2 weeks passed. Then something interesting happened. Emily stopped posting about hope and prayers. Ryan's car was gone from their driveway one afternoon when I drove by. Curiosity got the better of me. I called the transplant coordinator again. "Has surgery been scheduled?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "For next month. With the private facility in Monterrey. Monterrey, Mexico. Private transplant program. Fully covered under international insurance." I thanked her and hung up. They found the money. Or rather, they chose to use it. A week later, my father called me directly. His voice was different. Less aggressive, more tired. "They're moving forward with a private option," he said. I know. Silence. It's expensive, he added. I know. Another silence. We didn't realize the penalties would be that high, he muttered. There it was. Not desperation, not regret. Math. I hung up without arguing. Surgery happened 4 weeks later. It was successful. Emily recovered. Ryan kept his fund intact after adjusting positions post-penalty window. The investment account survived. The portfolio survived. Their marriage survived. What didn't survive was the illusion. 3 months later, I ran into Ryan at a charity event. He approached me like nothing had happened. She's doing great, he said. I'm glad. He studied me for a moment. You know, he added, you made this harder than it needed to be. I looked at him. No, I replied. You just didn't expect me to read the fine print. For the first time, he didn't smile. Emily never apologized. My parents never admitted what they tried to do. In their version of the story, I hesitated. In mine, I woke up. Months later, I heard they told people I was cold, heartless, selfish. Maybe I am, but here's what I know. They had the money. They had the insurance. They had options. What they didn't have was access to me anymore. They said I was choosing pride over family. The truth is simpler. I just refuse to be convenient. And sometimes, that's the most expensive boundary you can set.